One thing I've noticed recently is that most people are just like the muggles out of Harry Potter. And ironically, the people who fit into this category are the people that are most likely to be obsessed with Harry Potter. They have Harry Potter as it's like one of the mainstream things that they read as a child and now as adults can't get over, but they can't apply that knowledge to the real world and see magic in reality. I had an interaction recently with someone in my life, and they were talking about people on the internet who are charging money to basically act as witches and cast spells on people. And this person was it was two people telling me this story, and they were acting like how absurd it was because obviously magic doesn't exist and it's all fake. But like these are two people who would be like very into Harry Potter or see Harry Potter as like, they would consume it and watch all the movies, maybe read the books once. But it's like this complete denial that magic exists, that the only thing that exists is just whatever their routine is. And like this closed mindedness, like they don't even know all of human customs in their own city that they live in, let alone around the world or at historical points in time. So they can't understand how many other humans operate, many other muggles in this instance. So, what makes them think that they understand how the whole world works, or things like spell casting or manipulation with words? That could be a form of magic, or just the parts of reality that we are unable to perceive. But it got me thinking this, like, to so to scoff at the idea of magic. It just reminded me exactly of the Dursleys from Harry Potter and how they spend the start of the Philosopher's Stone trying to convince Harry that magic doesn't exist and convince themselves as well. And it's like this similar pattern I notice where anything that's sort of outside of this recommended box is, or the Overton window. It's like people sneer at you and they just tell you like it's not real, it doesn't exist. Like the only thing that exists is whatever their tiny slither of experience is in the vastness of the reality that we're living in. And yeah, I did some review of the Philosopher's Stone, and especially at the start where like the first chapter is a point of view for Vernon Dursley, and it sets a baseline for normality, which is intended to be boring, and then the magic of the story takes over, and Vernon, he goes about his perfectly ordinary working day at Grunnings and starts noticing disturbing, you know, disturbing, unusual events, which makes him anxious, and he ends up trying to ignore these or rationalizing these events as being normal, and then he goes to bed like believing that normality will resume. And it's like he doesn't want anything to be different. He just wants everything to be exactly the same. Like anything that comes up that's new is like scary. It's not an opportunity to learn. It's like he has put himself in this box, and yeah, I guess Vernon's maybe in his late 30s or early 40s, and it's almost like ludicrous how, and as the series goes on, it gets more ridiculous how flanderized the Dursleys become. But the scary thing is, it's kind of real because like in real life, I see people do this, and then they become flanderized versions of themselves, like, and they're not open to any ideas. And just continuing with Vernon, his and the Dursleys in general, like they're very proud and obsessed with their social appearances and conformity. and see normality as virtue. Um, drills are Vernon's passion, and any funny stuff is dangerous nonsense. So for Vernon, like, he's got his job, his family, and anything to threaten that is completely outside of like his scope. He wants to push aggressive normalcy, and he's insecure, and that causes him to be authoritarian and loud in his views. And I think that's also true, like, when you see people aggressively pushing like mainstream narratives, but they're not calm. They're not, the truth will always shine through if you are calm in your delivery. Like, you know that what you're saying is true. Like, you don't need to become agitated, which is like what a lot of people do, perhaps when they're talking about their political opinions, or defending what they see on the news, or because it's like deep down they probably know that there's something wrong with it, or it's not a belief that they fully hold, like that they are just saying it because it's what is socially acceptable in their view, and they're sort of cowardly in terms of morals because they can't face complexity without getting agitated, or they deny it, or they blame the messenger. And I think that's another big part of Harry Potter in general, is this, beyond the Dursleys, like, Harry seems to spend a lot of time trying to convince people that Voldemort is back and that he exists, especially after the fourth book. And there's this dynamic of Harry sounding the alarm and like no one believing him, which is a bit like, I guess like conspiracy theorists now, where it's any insight you have that's beyond a basic accepted insight is treated as dangerous, even in the magical community for Harry. And he can't even get through like in the magic community, but in the, like, with the Dursleys, like, they can't even see that magic exists. And yeah, it's very strange, I think, that people have been able to, like, this book series is so popular. It's probably the most popular piece of media in the last century, and that so many people have read this as children, and not only read it but loved it, and then they've turned into like the Muggles of the world en masse, and they can't even see it. Like, they cling to normality, and it's almost like Harry Potter as a piece of work is part of that normality. But if like you went back and read it, it's interesting that there are these deep truths in there about how like most people want to get on and just be normal, but it's like, it's almost like the first chapter of the Philosopher's Stone shows like, okay, like, this is the extent of where this goes. Like, you can't have a whole novel about the Dursleys, because it would just be, there wouldn't be enough content to sustain the interest. And it's like, you do need to, like, as the reader, like, there's no reader who's reading Harry Potter and is like, oh, I'm going to like stay with the Dursleys. Like, the Dursleys are right. Like, the book shows how like absurd that viewpoint is. But perhaps, yeah, it's a lack of reading, a lack of understanding. People who have read Harry Potter now don't see that. And another thing as well is like the Dursleys are all described as being very gluttonous and overweight, which extends to things like Dudley needing all his presents. So it's like they're materialists as well, and like Harry is described as virtuous, not because he's skinny, but it's like it's part of it. Like, he doesn't need to indulge himself more than necessary, but then he is the one that has magic. But people who do not have magic, which in real life could be just an ability to at least have an awareness that magic exists or is possible, or that life is not completely prescribed into the set of social expectations of the exact moment that you're living in. The people who who can't see that are more likely to be gluttonous, and they need to be materialist because they that's the only way they're seeking pleasure. They're not seeking pleasure by looking internal and thinking about the mysteries of the world in their soul and everything. It's like they only see the world as like a series of material items that they collect. And I think you see like a lot of Harry Potter fans, perhaps, not the most intelligent and gluttonous as well. And it's like, I don't know. I just think there's a great irony about the book, the series from the get-go saying this is what everyone is like, and this is how, and then this is how you should be like Harry, and having this open imagination and bravery and all these things. But then everyone reads that, and then as adults they turn out to be like the Dursleys. I just think it's incredible.